Greetings, showers. This is the Sarcasm Detector, and it is now time for the show. With me this week are Spencer, our Chief Cheesy Tactics Officer, and go ahead and say hi.
Hello.
And our Chief Ironic Medic, McKay.
I'm going to say ahoy in honor of Jay.
So, Odin is a little bit late. You should be popping up any second now. And Zeph is, not sure where Zeph is. I think his photons might have gotten scrambled
I'm not sure where Zeph is, and there's a pile of isolinear chips all over the floor in sickbay, so...
It might have been my fault. Yet last week I uploaded the emergency broadcasting hologram patch to him, and that might have done something weird to his algorithms. Who knows?
But maybe he'll show up, maybe not. No promises.
Maybe if I do a howl, he'll show up.
Oh boy, there is Odin.
No. Don't do that. I think all of our listeners have turned their volumes collectively back up.
Yeah. So, Odin, go ahead. I already did all the introductions, so...
I appreciate that. Apologies, everybody. As you know, the reality tends to kick in a lot as far as work is concerned, and I'm pretty sure that's the exact same situation ZEFilms is going through right now. But we are here, and the show will go on. I'd like to thank the panel, as usual, for being the stellar panel that they are and keeping things going, regardless of who's here, because no one person makes the show. We are a collective effort here. Going through with this here, I'm trying to pull up the show notes here. I do know that we do have one major announcement to make. If you haven't read it yet, or if you've been under a rock, you probably still got the message. July 6th, Agents Yesterday will land. So if you got vacation time, I know I do, take it off, use it, go ahead, because if you want to start that grind, that's a good day to start doing it. It'll land there, July 6th, coming at you.
Well, any day before then is a good day to start. I would argue it's probably a good idea to start the grind now with your rep tokens and other things.
Oh, that is true. Get your rep tokens ahead of time. That will make your leveling a little bit easier. Now, Mike, you want to actually bring in the point of why they would actually want their reputations leveled up as soon as possible?
Oh, yeah. It looks like AOI will be a little bit more of a grind than the Delta recruits were, for the folks that remember those. You would basically accomplish various tasks, do all of these missions and find all of these specific items within these missions and things like that. Well, AOI seems to be taking it a step up, where you'll also be compelled to fill out your reputations. I think R&D as well. Marshall, is that right? Couple other things.
Yes, R&D will be one of them there. Everything has to be back up to you level up to level 15 and you get extra bonuses.
You're basically going to be rewarded for doing so. And so the recommendation to do things like your sponsorship tokens and maybe buy a few rep mark boosts. I already did. Things like that. That might be useful. So just a heads up for the folks that like to prepare. And for the ones that aren't going to bother, it's not going to be a huge deal anyway. You're not going to pay that much more for the stuff you're buying. It's just kind of a heads up.
Thank you very much, good sir. Now, trying to get a couple of things going on here as well. Is there anything else that we need to prepare for as if we want to make a new agent tune, aside from getting rep tokens together? Is there anything else as far as tidbits of advice to say, be ready for this or have this in place here? Aside from the buy your plasmonic leech if you're an energy user, or SOB will probably say get your coalition disrupt as well. It's still cheap.
No, actually, what I would say is stock up on the research assignments, the temporal and the mirror ones, because part of what we saw with what they put on Tribble for the rewards that we talked about last week for this temporal recruitment event is leveling up your primary specializations, I believe it was, or something like that.
Specs as well.
Finishing all the specs on that character. So these research assignments, the temporal ones and the mirror, give you XP, and you can start doing those as low as level 12 to help you level up much faster. And you'll need a lot of them if you want to get all of the specs done quickly.
Nice piece of advice. Thank you very much. Now, we did have an agent here, and Sarcasm, I'm sorry I had to actually steal one of your agents for a moment because he's on special assignment. Darth Proteus was doing some investigation for us on Tribble and doing a bunch of the episodes, and I expect him to have a write-up shortly on what he's been finding out on Tribble and any other special tidbits that we may be aware of. And I'm sure whenever he has everything collected, he'll post that information on Reddit as well as on the forums itself. But he has promised us first exclusive access to the show on any, hey, you got to have this or you got to see this information here first. So I want to give a shout out to Darth Proteus for taking that step and doing very well in bringing us information that's pertinent. SOB, do you see anything good with the Tribble patch notes that we should probably pay attention to?
Not really. There wasn't this much this time around. It was just mainly fixes, if I recall. Yeah, I'm looking at it again right now. There's nothing really that huge, looks like.
Did they add any new episodes in there as well? Because I know there's some folks who would like to see the more missions.
There is a new episode, and then they did some fixes for some of the TOS content over there.
Cool. We also have something else going on Holodeck patch. Hopefully some more fixes coming our way. I haven't had a chance to look at the Holodeck patch notes at this time.
There's a few fixes. For example, the pedal to the metal. It will no longer display that it's a 0% to 0% buff. But a lot of this is stuff for the anniversary event and the changes to how the prize vouchers will work from now on.
They also added a cooldown timer for some of the event reward stuff, which is really cool.
All right, elaborate, because this is new to me, please. And I hate to put you as Johnny on the spot, but I'm ignorant to this one. What's happening here with the cooldown timers for the rewards?
Hold on. So at the very bottom of the holodeck release notes, the point is added a new button to the Q UI. View cooldowns, which displays a list of bonus mark cooldowns and some event cooldowns.
Doesn't seem to indicate specifically which cooldowns are shown and which aren't, but it's a step in the right direction.
Bonus mark cooldowns and some event cooldowns. So I'm guessing, you know how you have like a 20-hour cooldown between when you can get those bonus marks? For example, the Borg queues, the first mission you do, the first Borg mission you do, you get a bonus packet.
That would make sense.
Do you guys play STO? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, so it looks like they're adding a cooldown view or a new button that shows these cooldowns. So, for example, you log in the next day and you'll notice you have like 1 hour left on your Borg bonus marks or whatever event is running. So that's a quality of life improvement that people have been asking for a really long time.
And to say what was in chat there about the assimilated modules, they are resolving the issue that let you stack the assimilated modules, the upgraded and non-upgraded. A while back they had fixed a lot of these items that were allowing similar behaviors, and there was just a few they missed. So.
Or that one crept back in, did it not?
Yeah.
Like it was fixed and then it crept back in, is the way I recall it.
It's possible because we first noticed this issue like a long time ago when the upgrade system was released, even before Delta Rising, and we noticed it with the assimilated module and the Lobby console specifically.
Yeah, so I seem to remember this being a bug before, so maybe something that got patched and then got unset somehow.
I don't think they hit the original item because I think they were coded differently with a different ID number from the old system to the new system, so you could like have an upgraded version of it and then have the original version and then equip both of them at the same time.
Correct. They weren't considered the same item. Remember a while back they did like a whole scripting pass which lagged the whole server out, basically converting all the old items to new items. And I think that it was most noticeable with the fleet consoles. They all had their names changed, especially the embassy consoles. The names got changed on those, so when they became the new thing. And usually it was either when you upgraded them, but they did run a script to do it. And that was really bad for a few days while that script was running. Basically, whenever you logged in to STO, a script would start in the background, just going over all your items. And yeah, it made ESD a hell for a while, for a few days. And they learned their lesson from that, hopefully.
Oh, we hope so. We really hope so. I see here, and I wish ZEFilms was here to be able to lead in with this one because he put out the Rising Summer video just in time for the Rising event to be kicking in. And my understanding, when is this actually supposed to kick in? This week, right? No?
Tomorrow, I believe?
Yep, with the patch.
Yeah, well, guess what? For all the people who'd like to have summer swimwear and you need it in game, it's there. There are some other little vanity items that are in there as well. I'm sure this will help increase all of our DPS tenfold. I know it will for yours, SOB. I'm sure you need it.
Oh yes, the trait will definitely help me. It's very OP.
Oh, do tell, do tell.
Well, the trade-off of the Vorgon Heavy Escort, it is... well, I'm pretty sure sarcasm detects that there. A lot of sarcasm because it is probably the worst trait, one of the worst traits we've ever gotten.
We talked about mines and we got mines, man.
Well, yes, they finally added more love in the game for mines by allowing the exact same broken mechanic, an outdated mechanic, to show up in an effect after you use energy weapons. Good job. I mean, all right, look, I love the guys over at Cryptic Studios, but having mines appear 1.5 clicks away from a target after you use fall or scatter volley, and it's once every 20 seconds that a mine can appear, and it's a chronoton mine, and you haven't addressed any of the mine mechanics that make mines not work well in today's game. It's kind of like, here's something that occupies a trait slot that won't do anything for you. Have a good day.
And it's a mine. It's not mines. It's just a mine that appears.
I thought it was one mine for each target of scatter volley or fall. Is it just one mine?
Well, based on the way it reads, it's one mine can be triggered once every 20 seconds.
No, it says per target.
Oh,
yeah,
per
I thought
target?
it was per.
I missed the per target.
I thought it was per target.
I stand corrected.
So it's still
which is slightly less
target.
awful.
Oh.
It's just slightly less awful.
All right, one mine per target once every 20 seconds. Wait, hold on. Time out. How the heck is it going to keep track of all those targets?
That's a good question.
Holy cow. I hope there's no sort of scripting error that's going to keep a timer running, an internal timer running on each target for each person running this trait. Because let's just say, hapstance, free trait, 5 people are running this in an SDF, and they're not doing like, hold on, well, just humor me here for a second. Humor me. They're not doing like stupid whiz-bang DPS here because they want to actually drop their power levels down and run fall constantly, and then just start hitting all these targets that are around them. So each person is going to have each target have a 20-second timer before another mine can spawn, and multiply that by 5. I'm hoping the scripting is clean on this one, and it doesn't cause some sort of weird, system timer going on the server that's going to slow down the game's progress. Because, I remember CS classes and doing something with timing events that just sort of just brought your processors to a crawl. I hope this doesn't happen here. I really hope it doesn't. All right, I'm done.
You know what they need to do? They need to nerf this trait. Make it so that it really is only a mine per target. So if you have like 5 people following or scatter volleying, you don't have multiple mines. Like having 5 mines on a target, that's clearly overpowered. It needs to be nerfed. Well, there needs to be a lockout. Only 1 mine per target.
I have a question for
to start. It's already not going to take on any of the mine traits that you might have equipped for sure. So.
Right, it's like an anomaly, right? That spawns, so it's not going to benefit from your skills, perhaps, like most things that appear like that.
Oh, well, depends on how it's done, actually, because if it say something like overwhelming force, it actually does benefit from part gens and your control X. If it was something like, say, a drain that's done as a secondary proc, then it won't proc stuff like drain infection. So in this case, I'm assuming that if you have any sort of boost to kinetic damage, it should affect those mines there if they are generated on your behalf. But again, that's just an assumption. So, SOB, what was your question?
What mine damage type would you rather it be than Chronoton?
Well, if you want to be this bad, at least be a Tricobalt, because that would probably be the mine that does serious damage.
Yeah, with the frequency of the generation of the mines in the first place, the proc's going to be not that useful. So I may as well make it Tricobalts, like Marshall said. That's pretty much where I would go.
Now, in order for this trait to actually be good for pretty much all levels of play, one, you need to get rid of the mine activation cooldown. I'm sure we discussed this already beforehand, the irony of what we did on the previous shows discussing this. One, get rid of the activation cooldown. 2, increase the track range on it, because most of your targets are not going to be standing still. And at 1.5 clicks out, unless you have hot pursuit, if it gets beyond 2 clicks, good luck. I'm sorry. Just you got sitting mines there. Oh, look, I have a room full of mines and no targets to kill. Oh, wow. And 3, you're going to have to put up some elites for a lot of your maps, because the advanced queues, your target time to live for the higher up runs, and we're talking like 40, 50K on up, which is a lot more people now these days, is probably around 3 seconds. And if you still have your static old mine activation time, forget it. Forget it. You're going to have a whole bunch of mines sitting there twiddling their thumbs like, so Bob, do you see what that 4 did? Yeah, it killed that target. Hey, look, somebody's using scatter volley. Oh, and they're being good about it too. Target's dead. I guess we got more buddies to have. What are we going to do? We're just going to sit here for a while. Okay. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, the activation time plus the travel time, which is, I think they're even slower than the The destructible torpedoes are in the same range. Very
They're
slow.
around the same tracking speed, yeah.
Yeah, very slow. So, yeah, absolutely useless. But it should be nerfed.
But
Not
but
nerf for performance reasons, and I'm not being sarcastic there.
But if for some reason Cryptic decides to go on the back end and change the activation time for mines and the tracking speed, oh, you know what? While you're at it, just increase the yield on it too. Yeah, it could be good.
Come on, Odin. Doing something like that, doing a change like that. Come on. It's going to be too hard. It's going to take too much time, and it's going to be really, really difficult.
It wouldn't hurt to ask. Or at least put out some sort of reasonable thing and then adds 2 more things that'll be on the wish list on top of it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough about that. Is there anything else, SOB, that you see here on the summer prize list that would probably be good? I'm looking at the ground kit here. Yes, I said ground. And I'm liking this corrosive grenade personally, but that's just me. I like these little kinetic booms.
It might be okay, but it's not going to be better than the graviton spike we got last year. That graviton spike is just so good. I doubt I'll use the corrosive grenade. I doubt, honestly, that many will for the ground.
You know what we should do is, at some point when we run into Grim on one of the team speaks, we should start recording and mention grenades to him and just record the rant. And then play it back. Although I think we'd probably have to censor most of it.
We'd have to do a special edition of the show and bring in Grim and Ralston and just discuss the ground game.
We'd have to bleep like 3/4 of it, though. But yeah,
we'll just slap an NC-17 rating on it and be done.
That's there's a lot of cursing that goes with the ground game, as I understand it.
There is. The Science Console research kit, Sonic Disruption, actually seems pretty cool, but the last time I said that about anything in the ground item, it was the first release of the microphoton torpedo launcher, and yeah. Okay, I'm just going to back up on that one there. The Molten Terrain engineering kit, I'm just going to read this thing here real quick. Allows the engineering captains to call a concentrated blast from their orbiting ship. This blast does heavy damage to foes in an area and leaves the ground scorched, causing fire damage to enemies who linger within the molten terrain. I don't know. Could they use a different name? Call it like orbital bombardment and just be done with it? I mean, it sounds like an orbital bombardment. It would have been nice to actually see, hey, look, folks, here's the engineering version of grenades, only better. Roll an engineer. You get to call a micro barrage of photon torpedoes hitting this area of the ground, literally nuking anything that's in that area. And you get matter, antimatter, radiation, fallout, make up something over there, for like 10 seconds. So there's an AoE down on the ground there as well. Done. Problem solved. Fits cannon. Looks pretty. Does some AoE damage as well. Meets the intent. Perfect package. Nobody has to stretch the imagination on that. Never mind. We'll move on.
I want to talk about the ship a little bit.
Please do. This is your ball of wax here.
So, it's called the Vorgon Xyfius, and I believe that's the correct way to pronounce it. But the very first thing I noticed, it's called a heavy escort. What is a heavy escort? I know what an escort is, and I know what a heavy escort carrier is. What the F is a heavy escort?
May I?
Go ahead.
I would think fitting in with what we see in STO, a heavy escort would be classified as something between an escort and a destroyer, where you are not as robust as a destroyer itself or even a light cruiser, but you are still almost as maneuverable as an escort, with a little bit more beef to an escort itself. Now, depending on, did they give this thing the destroyer package? I'll let you continue on, please.
No, it looks like it has an escort package. No, it has an escort package. So just looking at this, it doesn't have any extra shields to it. It's just a plain one shield modifier. So that's pretty much on par with the fleet escorts. And 47k hull. That's still pretty much in the range of escort. It doesn't seem to be that much tankier. Of course, it's got the 4 in the front, 3 in the back, weapons-wise. 5 tactical, 4 engineering, and 2 science. So it's that's a little bit problematic there, but we'll talk about that particular topic a little bit down in the episode. Yeah, it's got a 0.2 impulse modifier, so it's going to be fast. It's going to be pretty much on par with the faster escorts. Of course, there are some with like 0.21, 22, 23, etc. 60 inertia, which is pretty good for an escort, and 15 degrees per second. So that is a bit on the low side. 15 degrees per second is a bit on the low side for an escort, but I don't believe it's the lowest. I think the slowest turning escorts are 14. In that regards, most Federation escorts are like 16, 15, 16. So it's on par with the Federation escorts in that regard. So the description says the ship is quite durable for its class. Durability comes at the cost of reduced maneuverability. Really, I don't see too much of that. It's not really that clear in the...
It's fluff text, that's all.
It's not even. I think if they're thinking that having more engineering slots than science slots equals durability, then no, Mark has missed completely. And as far as your turn rate itself, this thing is barely able to turn faster than the Manticore, and that's a destroyer. So no. Although it does have 1,000 more hit points than a destroyer, a baseline destroyer, not a fleet one, just a baseline destroyer, specifically the Manticore. So I don't see this thing as being all that beefy at all.
No,
I see.
Go ahead.
Well, it's got that Lieutenant Commander Engineering and then a Lieutenant Commander Universal, so I can make that Lieutenant Commander Universal and then do an Ox to Bat setup on it, Cam. I know you really like that.
Let's talk about the bridge officers.
Kick him out of this channel, go right ahead, man. That's all you. You're the one hosting this one here.
Yeah, bridge officer stations. 1 ensign tactical. I'm done. Just kidding. But what the hell? No, really. What the effing hell? Why is there an ensign tactical? Why is there an ensign slot on a ship? An ensign tactical on a ship? I thought we got rid of those when the T6s came out, but here we go. Ensign tactical. So if you really want to run this ship as a tactical ship, heavy firepower, most likely you're going to want to use the Lieutenant Commander Universal / Intel as a tactical seat. So you're going to end up with a Commander Tactical, a Lieutenant Commander Tactical / Intel, and then an Ensign Tactical.
Well, at least KLW is cheaper than it used to be.
That is I just can't wrap my head around it. Yes, some of the cruisers do have an ensign tactical, but those are cruisers. We're talking about escort type ships, the tactical ship, the escort class ships. I mean, remember the upgraded Prometheus that came out a while back, the Hestia. remember the uproar when it came out, when it was originally came out with a ensign tactical, and then they went, oops, yeah, let's make that universal for you guys. Did they forget about that? Did they not learn their lesson?
No, I see exactly what's happening here. They want to redo time again. So revisit that entire time period in history where everybody was in an uproar over a locked ensign slot. And instead of making it universal, they stuck it as tactical. And they want to see if people would actually remember. So let's just go back in time and remember this entire episode all over again. Let's experience it for those new players who haven't experienced this before. Why is it so important, Sarcasm Detector, that we have an ensign universal on an escort instead of just an ensign tactical? Especially with this lineup.
There's many reasons.
There's low-level heals you can run as an ensign Psi or an NG. I mean, that makes it immediately more useful.
Yeah, you can have that ensign as either an engineer or a science, and then you can have either a low-level heal or some kind of protection like polarized hull, or something to that effect. You know, it just because it's an escort, it just needs that little bit extra, and you need that variety a little bit. I mean, it's awkward. I mean, you can run 3 tactical officers, SROs. If you're a Fed or a Klingon, obviously a ROM, you can have like 5 SROs, so it's no big deal there. But it's just limiting.
A uni NC isn't going to break the bank on any build. It's not going to make for intense power creep. It wouldn't be like a huge, it wouldn't be a huge increase of potential on this ship. It would just be an increase of flexibility.
Exactly. It's more of a flexibility issue and you're not limited. I mean, just looking at the ship, if you want to make it a real powerhouse, you're really going to have to use that Lieutenant Commander as the Lieutenant Commander Universal. You're going to have to use it as a tactical. So that leaves you with 1 Lieutenant Commander Engineer and a Lieutenant Science. So you're kind of really SOL on versatility there. Just having it as an Ensign Universal, you can have the two TAC officers, and then you can have either 2 engineers or 2 science officers. It's definitely more flexible. It gives you more choice. Less choice in a ship, especially a factionless ship. Yeah, it's no bueno. It's no bueno. What the hell are you guys thinking? Come on. I really expected you guys to have learned your lesson with the Hestia, and I can't even. Looks-wise, I mean, we really don't have anything to go on the ship apart from a few pictures. It kind of looks familiar. I can't quite place where I've seen this particular theme before, but it does really look familiar. The general shape, the silhouette from the side, kind of looks like the big Voth ship, the really rare one there, the Bulwark. It's got the little phallus thing at the bottom. Makes it kind of look like a dildo. But it has the same also it kind of looks like the theme they had going for the Voth ships that kind of look like a head. I mean, looking at it, it looks like it has the 2 eyes on the top. So I guess that's why it's familiar, but there's definitely something there. Tiger striped slug. Yeah, pretty close to that. It kind of looks like that. But I'm still trying to figure out what it looks like. I've seen something similar before. It's got to be inspired from something. I just can't quite put my name on it. On the bright side, it does come with its own bridge. Yay! Rejoice.
Hold on.
This must be a lot of fun to do. There's always a new bridge to look at with a new ship like that.
Not always.
Not always, but very often.
The Rysian ships didn't get a bridge. I mean, they were designing it, but they had to put it aside, so we never got to see that. the
It'd be
the
nice
green
to see a
ships
bridge on the
are,
rice and chips one day.
yeah. It's, probably have
But
to
it'd be
wait
a
till
labor. I bet it'd be a
2018.
labor of love type thing. That wouldn't be like a paid. They wouldn't get paid to develop it, but it might be something that someone could put in some work on someday if they wanted to.
You know what? I think I'm gonna put a bet down and say this is gonna be a reskin of the alien pink bridge. So if you guys, I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. There is a generic bridge for certain factionless ships. It's kind of pink colored, salmon pink colored, and that's the generic bridge. So any factionless ship that doesn't have a unique bridge gets that alien pink bridge. And a lot of the quote-unquote unique bridges that have come out recently are just a reskin of that generic pink bridge. They just changed the textures and add a couple of little different things here and there, but the layout is exactly the same. To see that bridge, actually, all you have to do is get like one of these the booby price ships, like the Malon battlecruiser, for example. I think that's an easy one to get, or maybe the Nihydron frog ship, whatever that thing is called. Those have the generic pink bridge, and you'll notice that once you look at that bridge, it looks similar to quite a lot of bridges. That's because they've just done a reskinning. So I'm gonna bet, and I hope it isn't true. I hope we get a nice bridge this time, something unique, and not just a reskin of that pink bridge. But knowing Cryptic, it's just going to be a reskinned pink bridge. I'm willing to bet on it. What else is on this ship? Oh, harasser probes. Yay, let's move on.
Yes.
More Chronoton stuff.
Well, I get the Chronotons, but yay, unless there's a radical change to my
Odin.
at least Patreon beam attacks will be very nice. I see this as the ship being used a lot for energy bills in PvP. I'm sorry, what did I say? Hold on. I'll shut up now.
No, this I don't see any extra utility for this ship in PvP. I mean, it's seriously outclassed by quite a lot of ships. I mean, the Romulan ships, the Fayette, especially the Fayette, the new Tavara Tier 6, the pilot ships, hell, even the Nakul flying Batwing. It's really outclassed, and come on, PvP, really. So it's not really gonna find itself there as a ship to compete with the other Tier 6 escorts that we have. I think it's good that it's free. Kind of. You kind of have to grind for it. What is it? 3-week grind. You get. I think you initially.
It's a very relaxed. It's a very relaxed grind, though.
Yeah, you do the first mission. You get like what 400 vouchers or
Usually
whatever it is.
something like that, and then the 600 balance you make up within the 3 weeks or so, I believe.
Yeah, well, I think the whole thing lasts for 6 weeks or 5 or 6 weeks, so you have plenty of time to run it. And
plenty of time, and like I said, it's really relaxing. It's not like the winter event with the race. You're just kind of floating around, and it's very, very easy.
Yeah, the hover thingy, it only takes it doesn't even take 5 minutes to run. So it's very.
They give you
fast.
15, I think it is, and yeah, you can get all 5 within 5 easy, even with a rental floater. Basically, go in there, rent a floater, and earn enough to buy yourself a nice one. That would be your first buy if I were you.
Snoopalek, you are wrong. You are wrong. The most important part of a ship is its bridge. It is important. My immersion.
Wait, did you just say immersion?
Yeah, well, I have to fill in for Alan.
Okay, I was
Bridge
gonna
parties.
say.
Bridge parties, best parties.
I was gonna say, Mikey, prep a hypo. I want a blood sample from him, please.
I've been suspecting ever since kind of the upbeat nature of his greetings recently that he's a changeling.
Let's just do one just in case. Anyway, please continue.
Apart from that, I guess the ship is an easy to get ship, and I think let's take a positive view on this a little bit. I know I've been very negative about the ship, so we'll go with the good points. For a new character, a new player, someone who doesn't have a whole big collection of tier 6 ships or even tier 5 ships, this will be just fine. This is going to be a decent ship for them. And it doesn't require anything more than time spent, 5 minutes every day. And hell, you can spend more time on Ryza and do the whole RP thing and whatever it is people do on Ryza. And, maybe do a couple of power board races, whatever. Oh, we're getting new power boards, by the way. Something about new, smaller power boards or, smaller
mini
power
boards.
boards. Yeah, and they have the same speed as others. They're just smaller. It's not the size of the power
new
board.
patterns, smaller, and they have new patterns, I think.
Or the same patterns, I think they said. Something along those lines. I haven't been paying too much attention. My mind's been on other things. But yeah, apart from that, this ship, I mean, it's got its positives, it's got its negatives, it's got, from my point of view, all right? Let's be honest here. I am biased. From my point of view, it has more negatives than positives. Someone else could probably see more positives than negative.
I think it's a good ship. I think it's got a bit of potential.
Every ship has its potential. Every ship can be a really good ship depending on the pilot, right? And how much effort they're going to put into building it and how much time they're going to spend, how many hours they're going to spend getting to know the ship and its quirks and mastering it, of course, makes quite a bit of a difference, really. So a good pilot and a bad ship, you're going to get some really good results. But it's not going to be as good as a good pilot in a better ship.
What do you guys think you see out of this type of ship here as far as, a quote-unquote ideal loadout for it? Or what loadouts would it support better than others?
Well, guess what? There's going to be an STO builds discussion about that this week.
That is awesome. I love that. It's almost like
link
it was
in
an
the notes.
intentional bridge.
With the link in the notes.
It'll be on the show notes.
But hard to say. I don't know. I mean, I'm not much of a DPS builder, so I'd probably leave it up to Spencer. But are you not seeing any torp possibilities with this, with the 3 potential tax seats?
You could, but I mean, it's going to be borderline with the turn rate on that. It's going to be a little bit of... You're going to have to put some time into getting some maneuverability into it for a torpedo ship. But with that type of layout, you have like a Manticore layout without concentrate firepower, without... let me see. What's the other package on this, Sarcasm? The for the Starship Mastery itself, on its Mastery package. This is just an escort package, right?
Just a plain.
So you're going to lose out on extra crit D. You're not going to get the Destroyer package with that. It's kind of ho-hum. I mean, without any other extra tricks to it, it's going to be kind of, it's there. It can be slotted to use torps. But as far
it's
as
free.
Science slots, lack of science slots there to make the PEP any good, that's going to be out of the question. You could have it as a burst or spike DPS type of ship, but you're going to lose. You don't have any ability to actually keep that pressure going. So you're just going to be sitting there pushing buttons or, heaven forbid, auto fire too much. And it's just going to be there. There's nothing there that will actually enhance its torpedo capabilities.
We spent a lot of time on the trait considering how terrible I think it's going to be. So that by itself shouldn't be a really attractive reason to go for it. The trait is garbage. But it's not, the ship is not garbage. I think the ship is about middling, and I think maybe we just got spoiled by how awesome some of the past free event ships have been.
I mean, the Nandi, even with its layout, it was, you could use that as a for a variety of builds.
Yeah.
If you wanted a fast,
The Nandi is useful,
sciencey type
and the
of
trait
ship.
is amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you want to use it like a sciencey loadout on an escort, you can do that. If you want to use it as a side torp boat, you can do that. If you wanted to use it as your plasma explosion run-of-the-mill fall boat, you can do that. Cannons, you could do that. It fit a lot better for a jack of all trades kind of ship for something like
Than
this.
this one does. Than this one does. This one has, what this one has is a very unique aesthetic. It doesn't look like anything else out there, so there's that. Like I mentioned a few times, it's free, but it's only middling. It's not terrible. It's just not as good as some of the other free ships we've gotten.
Let's look at some. Let's just consider the other free escorts, not just escort type ships. So we've had the Breen Shalgret, we had the Ryzen Corvette, we've had the Nandi, and I'm forgetting one.
We'll get the idea, but we'll move on.
But yeah, so you compare those three ships. I mean, the Shalgret was effing amazing. It's the first warship, and it was awesome till like more warships came down a little bit later on, like the not the Voth, the not the Dromius, the other one there.
You're getting as old as I am, man.
I'm getting old. I'm forgetting stuff. There's just so many ships. But yeah, I'm not terribly excited. I think, just like McKay said, it's a very middling ship. It's going to be good for new players, people who don't have a lot of tier 6 ships or no tier 6 ships at all. But it's not going to be too competitive with any of the other ships.
That Space Barbie, though, it sure is a flying something.
The Tethys, thank you. That's the one I was looking for. It's interesting, but yeah, I think we should move on. We've talked enough about this ship.
What else we got?
Well, you know what? One thing that we do see this ship, though, I mean, we're going to see if SOB wants to load it up with coalitions. But with the recent changes to Pen and its sources, for those folks who don't have, 400 to 500 million per weapon slot to drop on a coalition disruptor, SOB, how valuable is Pen still in this state of the game? And are all sources of Pen the same, or are they still different?
I would say that due to how much debuffing we've lost, that Armor Pen has increased in value, because you really, really want as much of it as you can get to make up for what we just lost with the recent patch. As for them being on the same level, as far as I'm aware they are, I believe that's what I was reading on STO builds.
I forgot the mathematician, but he was working on it, was able to derive where each source of Pen would contribute as far as the DPS calculation formula. And under 11.5, your sources of Pen are now treated at the same level. So Pen is no more, on some sources, its own injury class, which is outside of the rest of the calculations and multiplied afterwards, or something else that's stuck within the formula itself. It's at the, correct me if I'm wrong here, but isn't it the same as the Cat 2 level at this point?
I believe that's correct.
I'll put the link in the show notes for it, because I've been following it. I just haven't memorized the formula per se. So I will have the actual notes there so people can read on it. But it should be, if I remember correctly, on the same level as all Cat 2 bonuses. So if you have the formula on hand, you should be able to go through that. Hey, you know what? Jay's here. Why don't we just ask Jay here and find out exactly? Cat 2, right? Back me up.
Take him a minute to catch up to the stream.
Yep. But
speaking of catching up to the stream, there's someone, we've got a certain audience member that's being a little bit lazy right now.
Well,
certain holographic audience member.
Yes, he's also working right now, so us working folk gotta make that money somehow.
I know. I'm just joking with him, but I saw him pop up. Hi, Alan.
All right, but with that said, though, SOB, because there's some I've seen this in some of the channels where pen has been changed, and you get pen sources in your skill tree. Is pen being devalued? People thinking maybe they could run other types of weapons and not rely on pen as much as they used to. What's the verdict on this?
Simply stack as much pen as you can. We've seen such a massive debuff loss since that lag fix patch and the pen change. In most runs, I've personally seen my debuff levels go down from where I had around maybe 180 to 200% before, where it's now 130 to 140. So I've lost a lot of debuffing there.
All right, I just gotta jump in here. People were getting massive records, really high numbers of DPS with just between like 100 and 120% debuff. Those really high numbers, like 180 plus, are you can only really get those with ships. Before Coalition Disruptors came out, you can only get those with ships like the Science Odyssey and the Anoraks and the Paradox. With the sensor analysis to help out doing the extra debuffing there. So, other than that, I think 100 to 120%, 130% debuff, that's still good. You can still hit well over 100k with that amount of debuff. You can probably hit all the way to 200k or more with that type of debuff. So I really don't think it's that big of a problem. Plus, there's less lag. There's almost no lag now. So all the problems, all the debuffing that's gone, that call it a nerf if you will, yes, that's going to reduce DPS significantly. But the lack of lag, or the severe reduction in lag, because there's still some isolated instances here and there, that has really pushed the upper cap of DPS way up. I mean, seriously, Spencer, in the past, since the patch, since the fix to pen and all the sources of pen, how many records have you broken? How many times have you broken your record?
Way too many times, and it's just shown us once again how much power creep we actually got with 11.5 and how much of a joke, in fact, it is that we even have to. It's the best option we have for a parse map right now. Basically, that's a joke. We need an elite version of that.
Yeah, so it's power creep, of course, and it's not just 11.5. Come on, there's 11 and 10.5 and 10 and 9.5. It's been a whole series of power creep, and again, we've talked about this before ad nauseum. Yes, there's power creep. Power creep is a good thing, as long as there is difficulty creep with the content. As long as there's content to match the power creep, it's all good. When there's no content, no new content that can match the power creep, then it's bad. And this is the problem we had before Delta Rising came out. We had so much power creep, where ISA, when it first came out, people were struggling to get 5k DPS, and that was like really rough on ISC way back in the day. And then we started hitting anywhere from like 30, 40k for a, Fed captain, Klingon captain, up to like 50k, maximum 60k for a Romulan captain. And it became just a joke. I mean, yeah, you remember the old refrain, 3k is sufficient. If you do 3k, you can do all the content in the game. So much power creep that you can hit anywhere from 30 to 60k made a lot of the elite content a joke back then. And they redid everything and gave us an extra difficulty. So we now have normal, advanced, and elite, or some elite, I should say. But they went ahead and nerfed
Elite Light.
Yeah, they went and nerfed it. They made it easier because people started crying. Oh, it's too difficult. I can't rub 2 brain cells together to make a good build to make me pass the fucking queue. Make it easier. I just want to click a fucking button and get my reward because I'm entitled to it. Make the queues easier. You promised it was going to be the same thing as before. And, people don't think, and look where we are now. So, I put the blame on this, not on the power creep. Because if they had left the advanced queues as they were released initially with Delta Rising, sure, we'd still have the power creep that we have, but it wouldn't be to this level of ridiculousness that it is currently. And I put the blame squarely, firmly with the whiners, the crybabies, the entitled casuals who think they are entitled to their reward. They just want to click a button and get the reward for no effort at all. This is your fault. So next time, quit your whining about the power creep. Shut the fuck up.
I'm not going to put this on. All right, I'm not going to put this entirely on the whiner segment of the population here, because there are a lot of people whining about a whole bunch of different things in this game. And, for whatever reason, some things get more attention than others. We get that. Okay, whatever. But Cryptic Studios is here in this game to sell products in a free-to-play model. They're here to sell products in order to make money. And that will be either by ships, the traits that they drop, or sticking in some goodies or powerful items in specific events that is stuck behind, used to be stuck behind some sort of nasty power creep, and you would have to fight your way through it or buy something to help increase your power in order to be able to go and get the extra power in there. So they're the ones adding this into it. And we're the folks who are looking at this and trying to analyze it to the nth degree and see what way we can derive how the inner workings are on this, then bring it to the masses and say, look, folks, here's the information. Here's how this thing works. Here's how you can use it to your advantage. If you're a side captain, tac captain, engineering captain, you're using torpedoes, mines, fire at will, scatter volley, beam overload. If you're using just psi magic, whatever you're doing, here's how you can do it here. There's some things, and when the Agronauts took off, the tanking realm opened up big time for it. There was 1 or 2 folks who were doing tanking as a theme, but it wasn't broken down at the scientific analytical level to say, here's how this works, here's where you can use it, here's how it'll benefit you, and here's the time you should use X, Y, or Z at the appropriate times. That level of scrutiny has not happened in this game up until fairly recently. And the level of power creep wasn't introduced by the whiners, although it definitely helps them to try and, stay on in this game. Like, oh, look, I have a new shiny toy to play with. But if they're whining that, oh, these guys are coming in and taking all of this DPS here and ruining my experience when I'm trying to do this Borg Red Alert, they have access to the exact same thing too. And if they're not doing what those other folks are doing, they have no right to complain, especially when the sources of information are out there. Even the wrong ones will get you to do some sort of improvement over having nothing at all and not knowing which button to push and when. So I can agree with you, Sarcasm, on the whiners need to silly just grow up, read a couple guides that folks have taken their time out to be able to put together for other people and do it. But to put the blame squarely on them, no. Cryptic Studios has designed this game and shifted the focus way into the player realm for the abilities that they have, so they can literally stomp the hell out of any of the content in this game. And there's no content in this game, at least in space, that is much of a challenge. And I suck at the ground. And the last time I ran with Kanga, she literally carried me through a Borg HSE and didn't have to sweat much of it at all. And I'm looking at this and like, why am I even here? I'm here for decoration. I'm just here as like her escort guard, although she's escorting me. So there is no challenge at all. We have all this power and nothing to use it against that's worthy of said power.
It goes back to the lack of content, and it also goes back to, Cryptic listening to the Crybaby whiners, elitist casuals. And yes, those casuals are elitists. Cryptic listened to them and made things easier, and they haven't, actually went and given us any elite cues, anything challenging. Now, here's the telling thing. Here's the really telling thing, Odin. The queues were empty for a long time. You could pretty much say the queues are still empty, most of them. And, the whiners, the elitist casuals, the reason, part of their whine, part of their vitriol is that the queues were empty because they're so difficult and they can't do it, blah, 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 ad nauseum. But, it's been simplified. It's been made easier. I mean, CCA. I'm going to bring up CCA, and I'm going to bring up Bordicus's tears regarding CCA, because the advanced queues got nerfed or rebalanced about 3 times to make them easier. CCA was rebalanced 6 times, maybe 7 times. I might be missing one particular point. It was nice. It was challenging. And then they nerfed it, and then nerfed it again, and then they nerfed it again, and again, and again, and then again. It's ridiculous how easy they made it. And then Bordix has come, oh, this is not what we intended. Well, yeah, if you're listening to all the crybabies and making things easier and easier, and, there's no difficult content, there's nothing to challenge the players, there's no content to keep up with the power creep, you're going to end with a CCA, an advanced queues that's finishable within a couple of seconds. And you're going to end up with the same thing for all the other queues. I mean, yesterday we finished a HSE in like 2 minutes, in under 3 minutes. And we could have literally done it in 2 minutes. Most of the time on that last queue, HSE queue that we did yesterday, a lot of time was spent on the Queen because people kept dying on the Queen part.
Yeah, we actually some of us actually had a lag spike where, well, not necessarily lag in a traditional sense. We're activating abilities, but nothing happened. But the game was still showing at least on the client side, it was still showing as if activities were happening, except for the abilities that we were activating. But other than that, yeah, the run was very smooth in comparison to what it used to be a couple of weeks ago. And the level of power creep in and of itself is it's stupendously like, hey, this is supposed to be the elite, the hardest of the hard. And when I say I miss the old bugged HSE where the mobs were actually stronger, I miss it. And at the same time, I doubt it would have been any slower because of how much power everybody had in the team and how well we can synergize together with it with our unique builds. Now, I'm not going to go too much more into it because you still have a point to make here. But after you're done, I'm going to take the baton and then run away with this here and discuss what we've done in that HSE. But you're right. I mean, this thing is supposed to be, you know, we're on a timer. That timer now is arbitrary. We're finishing it in less than, what, 1/4 of phase 1 time? That's disgusting.
Yeah. So that's not HSE from yesterday. The opening salvo. So it was Odin, Spencer, and we had Fane and Tankia with us, and myself included. But the opening salvo, just the opening spike, we had Odin at about 420k, myself and Spencer at about 300k, and Fane was at around 240k. That's just the opener. So we literally had the cubes down, all the cubes down in less than a minute. And then there was the two space pickles there. Those went down fairly fast. And then we had problems on the Queen. People started dying. At one point, there was just me and Spencer on the Queen, 2 against 1. So it was kind of slow. I think we spent more time killing the Queen than the rest of the mission, the rest of the queue.
Correct. Yeah, it was almost a split between the Queen and the rest of the mission. And we're thinking, even though this was unintentional, this kind of felt like an actual boss fight for about half a minute.
Yeah. So if we hadn't had that problem, I mean, like, there still were some glitchy parts, and I was still getting used to the ship I was flying, and you know, there was some weird things going on there. There were still some hitches, although it was a lag-free-ish kind of run. I was still getting some misfires. If we had done this perfectly, if we had a really good run, we would have finished HSE, Hive Space Elite, in under 2 minutes. That just is mind-blowing. I mean, I remember when Delta Rising came out, we couldn't even finish Hive Space Advanced. Not Elite, Advanced. You took the highest DPSing guys in the game, put 5 of them together in HSA, and we could not finish it. We couldn't even get the first optional, the very first part, where you have to kill all the attack cubes. We couldn't finish that part. So, yeah, it's been quite a bit of power creep, but there's still the lack of that difficult content we need.
And I'm going to take what you said here, especially with that example that you brought in that run there where we had that much power creep. Something else was demonstrated at that time. Fane is one of the members of the Agronauts, and he brought in his old school, well, we consider it old school as far as Hive Space Elite is concerned, the pre-nerfed Hive tanking build that he had. It wasn't set up for like more DPS, less tank. It was set up as more tank with a little bit of DPS behind it to be able to survive an enemy that would last a lot longer than what he was facing there. So he was shocked when we saw how easy we were just literally mowing everything down. And mowing is a very good analogy for it because stuff was gone. And between Sarcasm, SOB, and I forgot, who was the other person that was with us there?
Tankia and his
Tankia. Yeah, Tankia was more in the science build. Fane was tanking. SOB has his Uber tank DPS. You and I were in there pretty much as the DPS / support. And we were destroying things. And one thing I've noted so far in the fastest hives and in the best records that we've seen so far, unless you're bringing in a 5 scimitar run or 4 scimitars and another ship run, you are seeing the top 5 holding a variety of different builds here. And I'm thinking, if this trend continues, we're still looking at this here, but if this trend continues, we have a Coalition Disruptor Scimitar. Now, SOB, were there any other ships that you brought in there that have been hitting above 180 in Hive?
The two setups I've used that have broke actually to 30k in Hive were my Psi Audi tank build using Coalition Disruptor beams and getting a lot of its damage off of feedback pulse. Actually, in the one run it had 108k. But the other build is my Cannon Scimitar build, so I don't have that on Coalitions yet. That's just normal disruptors. And yeah, dual cannons.
So you have two different builds here of two different loadouts. One Coalition Disruptor beam arrays, and the other one Cannon Disruptors. But they're both on the Scimitar platform?
No, only the cannons are on the Scimitar. The Coalition beams are on my Science Audi, on my Fed.
All right, so you have a good Science Audi, and you're obviously a skilled pilot. I mean, we try not to say that too many times before your ego decides to blow up to epic proportions, but you're obviously a skilled pilot. You have a Science Audi, and you have a Scimitar running cannons, and you're busting up records in HSC. Meanwhile, we're running in there with another tank, a Science Wizard, a kinetic ship, and a shield stripper in Sarcasm's build here. And glitches, even with glitches in there, it was an epic run. I think it was like, what, 6th fastest on that specific run. If it wasn't for the glitches, we would have probably went through and took 1st or 2nd. Hands down. That thing was nasty. At the level that we were all playing, power creep included, because this is a huge factor for this. Power creep included, all of us in our unique builds synergized so well with it that we only magnified each other in the level of power creep that we were there. Although I will say SOB carried me a little bit there. Fane shielded me from a lot of the attacks, and I was just able to sit back and unload for a while. And my problem was there wasn't enough targets to shoot at because things were dead.
Yeah. So I want to, do a little bit of polish on what you said here. The different builds that we had. So you had Spencer with his Science Odyssey, which is like the new meta, Coalition's sensor analysis. It's an uber feedback pulse tank, one of the toughest, hardest hitting ships in the game, rivals the Scimitar. Absolutely fantastic. I love it. I just love the Science Odysseys for being able to get that. It was the ship that people used to laugh at, and who's laughing now? So that was Spencer's build. Fane he was in his Anorax, I believe, and that was also a exotic particle build. So he had the TBRs going and feedback pulse going. So, and of course he had a little bit of aggro. I don't think he had all the aggro. Let me just take a quick look at the chart here. 60% was Spencer, and Fane had 20%. So I guess he had a bit of issue losing the aggro on that one. Tankia had a Elachi weapon build. Yes. So, yeah, people are like, what's an Elachi weapon? Basically, the proc on that is just shield bypass. It'll proc and it'll ignore the shields and go straight to hull. Those were absolutely fantastic back in the old days for PvP. If you get lucky, you get like was a crit D3 or whatever it was, and you get lucky and you can one-shot someone with those beams. You, Odin, were running your torpedo boat, which normally in HSE is a bit problematic because there's a lot of shielded targets in HSE, and they have like really heavy shielding. I was running a Tetrion build, which synergized really well with, obviously, your torpedo build. Although the thing is with tactical cubes is that they you can't knock off one shield facing. It's impossible with a tactical cube. They just redistribute their shields so fast. But it's still reducing the amount of shields they have, and having less shields for you is a good thing, because those torpedoes will still knock out those shields eventually and will let you get a solid hit. And I believe you had some massive hits. Max one hit, 483k, 484k you had in there.
Keep going. Well, that's probably not that run there, but it was another run. I don't think you were in that one, where SOB and I were literally fighting for 1 million DPS. Briefly, mind you, but it was that intense. Where between his debuffing all the targets, one of the Atem holding aggro for whatever SOB wasn't catching, and I literally had free reign to shoot at whatever I wanted to. And the only thing that was limiting our DPS at that point was we needed bigger targets to shoot at, because things were dying so damn fast. I'd throw a salvo out, and I would see multiple 700k crits across the board, especially with that Science Ultimate. Oh my gosh, the Science Ultimate added more debuffing power to all of us. It was disgusting. So with all of that and a variety of builds, we put it all together, and we threw it at a map that's supposed to be challenging, and we literally steamrolled through it. It was gone. Cryptic, please help us out here. We don't need another grind. We need good endgame maps, because we're going to be teaching more people how to be able to do these things, especially with the variety of builds here. And we applaud it that, bugs notwithstanding, we have a variety of builds here. Let's get rid of some of the archaic mechanics. Let's fix some of the bugs. You have more people who will throw down real money to be able to upgrade all this stuff and run thematic builds across all of their tunes. Let's do it. There's a market here for you, just waiting to be tapped into.
So the irony here is having this weird motley crew of builds in HSE was actually better, or potentially better than having a team full of the standard meta.
Well, duh.
It just worked. I guess it might have been us. I mean, we all played together quite a bit, and we're all used to our different play styles and how we do things. So maybe that has something to do with it. But that particular run, was just spectacular. I do have it recorded. And normally we're not self-promoting videos quite as much as before, but I'll add the link to the HSC that we did, the one that we're specifically talking about. I'll add the link to the show notes so people can see it. And yes, I am running a Tetrion build. And it's even worse than that. It's a Tetrion / Rainbow build. Yes, I went there.
But it's good, though. That's the point. A lot of people would, and to this day still do, laugh at folks who throw rainbow builds on this ship and start going at it, but are surprised at the results for people who know what they're doing. And we're not saying, oh, we're wizards and you'll never see what's behind the curtain. No, it's, all right, here's what we did. Here's how we did it. Here's a video. Here's how you can do it too. And if you want to make modifications, here's at least a couple ways you can do it. Here are the tools where you could look up other aspects here. And if you come up with something creative, share it to the community. We'd like to learn something new too. That's it. That's all we're about. So for all those folks out there who are saying rainbow builds suck, torpedoes suck, if you want to be just a science wizard and support, you suck, agronauts, you suck. In the right content, those will shine. And we've seen it here. Sarcasm. We know sarcasm. The last episode, get on the meta or get out. Right?
Right.
But you saw something here. And it's not like we're just, speaking a lot of hot air. This is something tangible. You've recorded it. You've seen it. And yes, it's us being familiar with each other's flight style. We talked, we communicated, we planned. But we also had our unique talents, our builds, and our coordination only magnified what we do as individuals in that run. And we could do it repeatedly over and over and over again. So this speaks to something.
Now I have to qualify. I'm sorry. I have to specify here, because it wasn't just a, run the meta or GTFO. It's, quit complaining and run the meta. There's a difference here. A big difference, because really I'm not the guy that is like, this is the meta. I'm going to play with this and not do anything else. Spencer knows this very well. Among the DPSers, the DPS admins, I have been the one that, did experiments, encouraged the other admins to say, hey, wait a second, guys, maybe this will work out. Literally, for the Iconian set, the Iconian set, the standard pretty much now, when it came out, the other admins were like, it's garbage. I'm like, wait a second, guys, let's actually test this out. No, it's garbage. No, come on, guys, let's get on Tribble and test it out. And oh, holy moly, this is actually good. Same thing with drain boats. They're like, drain boat's not going to get any DPS from a drain boat. And it turns out a good drain boat is pretty much equal to a recluse in boosting a team's DPS. So, I don't have an issue with going off meta. Not at all. I can try different things, experiment. My whole point of what I was talking about the last show I was on was that, people complain too much. Shut up and play the game. That was the whole point. Quit complaining.
Well, thank you very much for that public service announcement. Shut up, quit complaining, get good.
Get good, scrubs.
All right, real quick before we go through here, go through the rest of the show notes here. We do have Jay over at Reddit has given us the exotic damage formula. Bravo for the nice write-up. Very easy to read. The formulas are there. They're broken down. They give you everything, including the nuances. We're going to have that up in the show notes. Freaking excellent. And with this, you see a lot of size/whatever builds showing up now. Thanks in part to this here, because now people know, hey, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to load up on part gens, here's a list of abilities that I would have that will hit the hardest based off of what I'm doing in whatever map I'm running against. So thank you very much for that work, and for everybody else that has contributed in some way, whether directly or indirectly, thank you very much for that. And SOB, this one seems to be your specialty here.
So
what is the deal with these damn plasma explosion consoles? And why is it somehow, in your mind, limiting people who want to get good with them in their ship selection?
I just feel that with plasma explosions, how they currently are, it really limits your ship selection when you see a new ship. You go and look what we said earlier with this heavy escort. Oh, it's only got 2 science consoles. That is a major downside for us right now because of these consoles. These consoles are so good that they're more valuable than TAC consoles right now. It's just crazy.
And for context, folks, when you have a bunch of these plasma explosions going off on a good fall build with a good fall cycle or cannons, now, especially now that they're going on a per shot basis instead of a per cycle basis, you're going to see plasma explosions be either number 1 or number 2 as far as their total damage done and total DPS for any run. They are that good. They are that powerful. They will literally make the difference between, hey, I did 80K to, hey, I did 120 or more, 130, 135. And then when you start adding in, the part chance for feedback pulse, oh, look, they're doing double duty. They're that much more valuable. Go on, Capt.
Okay, before I crack my knuckles here, I just want to point out that Spencer might have a ulterior motive to bringing up the plasma consoles. Because
I'm sure he does.
I'm sure he doesn't want to get them nerfed, and I'm sure he'll be really upset once they get nerfed. If they get nerfed, hopefully not. But I know what the reason is. I'm not going to say what it is, but let's just suffice to say that he has ulterior motives, as usual. Now, knuckle cracking time. Hold on to your seats. There are very specific people you can blame for this. You guys remember the research consoles, right? From the Krenim Embassy? Yeah, you remember.
You mean
them.
off the week of DPS?
Oh, the week of DPS. Yeah, so those consoles, as they were on release, barring the glitch that they had, just ignore the infinite repetitive looping cascade of DPS that they had. They were a really good alternative to the plasma consoles. They were really, really good. Both versions, both the healing and the exotic. They could compete, not on a one-for-one basis, but very, very close to the actual plasma consoles, the plasma exploders. But what happened was, instead of just fixing the glitch in classic cryptic manner, they decided to go for the double nerf. Not only did they fix the glitch, they nerfed the consoles to reduce their damage increase. So, and I really wish Cryptic would stop doing that. If something is broken, just fix it. Stop nerfing things. You do not balance the game by constantly removing things. That is not balance, that is just idiocy. It is idiocy, yes, I am saying it. You do not balance a game like that. So, why is it idiocy? Because, as I was saying, these consoles were really good. They could have been really good replacements for the Embassy consoles. But because Cryptic, and there was a few people who made the decision on this, decided to double nerf it, they're pretty much garbage right now. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not going to say garbage. They're still useful. I mean, especially for like quirky builds, different things, if you want to go there, you might find some use out of them. But really, Spencer's right. If you want, when you're looking at a ship, you're going to look at it and say, well, it's only got 2 science consoles. I would prefer a ship with 3 or 4 or 5. That would be fantastic. A ship with 5 science consoles. You can put like 4 embassy consoles and something else additionally, or even 5 embassy consoles, because the explosions are really, really good, especially on cannon boats. Especially if you're running dual cannons, not the dual heavy cannons, the dual cannons. And you know what? I want to test out the single cannons at some point when I get the chance. So yeah, Spencer is right. But the solution to this is not to nerf the plasma consoles, is give us an alternative. Fix the research consoles, buff them up again. Really buff them up again. The tactical consoles could use with a buff as well, because they're really underpowered at the moment.
Give us an engineering alternative that is as good.
Yeah, that would be good. An engineering console that can do something like that. Doesn't have to be like direct exotic damage or direct shield bypassing damage like the exploder consoles, but some kind of buff, damage buff or something. Something that's like, yes, I have to have those. Or, you know what, I like the embassy consoles, but this console really, yes, it would help me out. I'm going to replace the embassy console with this new console. That would be fantastic. Nerfing things, or as Cryptic normally does, whenever they nerf something, they'll double nerf it or triple nerf it. It's as if they're in a council, they're having some kind of meeting, and they're like, all right, so how do we fix this? And one guy suggests a nerf, second person suggests another nerf, third person suggests a nerf, and then they go, you know what? Let's put them all together. That will fix the problem. It doesn't. It does not.
You guys do realize, though, that you're advocating for more power creep in one hand, and I get what you're saying here, but we're advocating for more power creep without having a solution in place to address power creep, while still advocating for a solution for power creep.
No, I'm not saying something more powerful than the embassy consoles. Give us an alternative to the embassy consoles. Like, I would really love to run the research consoles from the Crenum research. They have some really interesting consoles that I want to test out. But I really don't want to give up half my effectiveness in a run just to run something quirky. I love running quirky different things, but I still like to be effective.
And I'm probably going to be the minority on this one here, but the all damage boost significantly kicking up a shield bypassing mechanic to do stupendously large amounts of damage per hit. I don't know, man. It's kind of and yes, it does disproportionately benefit tech captains over science engineering captains. I honestly want to go back with one of ideas that a couple of us came up with together from different angles, mind you, but we pretty much reached the same consensus that if there was a science console like this, that science captains should receive the biggest benefit from them. Tech captains receive the biggest benefit from tech consoles, and engineering captains will receive a huge benefit from engineering consoles in some sort of multiplier with that. But have like a damage variety, or have, well, in the case of tech captains, damage in speed, for example. Science will be, exotic damage and whatever other functionality that comes off of that one there. For engineering, it'll be survivability and damage. I'm just throwing out, random ideas here. But some sort of multiplier that make them more effective for that specific captain versus any captain that's off of that type of console.
I would disagree there, and this is something that I've talked about before. I don't agree with tying things to your captain career, especially in space. That's your career is really fluff. Really, it really is. Yes, tactical captains can do more damage than science and engineers, but the science and engineers are really close behind. They're not that far back. It's not like you have like science captains that can't break 50k and tactical captains are doing 200k. They're really close to each other. And really, the only big bonus that tactical captains have is go down fighting and alpha. And alpha's not that big of a boost over what the science captains and engineers have. Really, the captain career you have in space is just flavor. It's flavor added. It's your ship. That's your class. So, in that regards, I would, kind of accept having, a science ship getting a little bit extra boost from science consoles and a tactical ship getting an extra boost from, tactical consoles and etc. Engineers from engineering ships, cruisers from engineering consoles. But to have it tied to your captain career is very limiting, and it really goes against one of the main things I love about STO is that diversity. You can be any captain career in any ship and make it work, almost. I don't think anyone can make a Cation carrier work, but, that's just me.
I don't know. I think somebody already has, but we're waiting for the video on that one.
That's possible.
All
But
right.
I like that idea, but as long as it's not tied to your captain career, as it's tied to your ship class, that might work.
Well, if we're going to go that far, then we might as well make STO2 and say, hey, look, here you get to design your ship from the ground up, select cruiser, select your frame, design your frame. It has offensive, defensive, and maneuverability capabilities. You sacrifice 2 to get the bonus on 1. And then from there, design your hard points, your weapons, and then the number of console slots, and you go. There you go, STO 2.0.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year. Get on it, Cryptic.
Oh,
All right.
If it's not Cryptic, it's going to be someone else.
Yeah, well, they have the IP, so we're rolling with them on it. We're going to just go through the rest of this real quick here because we're approaching the 2-hour mark. So I want to say thank you to everybody who's sticking around here, especially with
late.
this kind logistics difficulties instead of technical ones. So we appreciate you all listening in. And we will be choosing a couple folks who have been longtime listeners of the show. You'll be receiving something in game. So just want to say thank you very much. We have one very generous audience listener here, which I want to say thanks to. And he's provided us goodies for us to disperse as we see fit. No, Spencer, it's not going to go into your Spencer GoFundMe page or the Spencer for Coalition Disruptors and all of his tunes foundation.
Well, what about the Trump campaign for my Trump character?
No, especially no, and no. But no. But we will say happy birthday, though, to James Darren, who's 79 today. We know him better as Vic Fontaine on the Holodeck in Deep Space Nine. The best is yet to come. I'm pretty damn sure it is. And Bernie Casey, who's 76, for those, again, in Deep Space Nine who remember the Maquis episodes. He played Lieutenant Commander Calvin Hudson, who was a double agent working with the Federation, but supplying the Maquis with information and also leading a resistance movement there. Those two are very fine actors. They've worked on multiple things there, and we just want to say happy birthday to them as well. We do appreciate the dynamic that they brought to Deep Space Nine, and they made that show had a lot more flavor to this, to just a Trek series. I mean, Mikey, you and I have had this discussion beforehand. One of the very good things that Deep Space Nine has done was that, yeah, you had your central characters, but you had so much character development from other people who are coming in, even guest characters.
Deep Space Nine kind of got me the illusion, or gave the illusion the best, that you were looking into the window of all the people's lives on the station, but there was definitely something complex going on outside the station.
Exactly. And this type of character development helped to bring that aspect. It was like, Grand Central Station of that quadrant. And you felt like you were knowing something else that was going on outside of there while you were still immersed in that area. And it's just kudos to all of them for making that show just deeper than just here's another sci-fi show.
Yep, there was actually a lot of initial pushback against making James Darren a lounge character. They were asked, Ira Stephen Bear, I think it was asked, well, what the hell? What possible role could someone like this have in a science fiction show? And it took a lot of convincing for him to actually write someone like that in. And we can see it now from the other side. Look at all the character development that Nog got through Vic, for example.
Or the introspection that a lot of the other characters has had because they were able to talk to Vic.
Hey, I'm just a hologram, buddy.
Exactly. So we just want to say thank you to those two actors and the writers who helped not just fit them in, but develop them as well. Real quick, Sarcasm, I believe this is all you right here on the side tech. Just go through this real quick, although I'm pretty sure the first one here will make every single creationist mad out there.
So I have 3 articles for you for this week in Science and Tech. The first one is about a 700,000-year-old hominin remains discovered on the Isle of Flores. For those of you who don't know what the Isle of Flores or significance in paleontology, anthropology, it is the location of a supposed species of hominids called Homo florensis. Now, there has been quite a bit of debate in the past. These are the hobbits. If you guys remember hearing in the news about, the hobbit remains in some isolated island in Indonesia somewhere. The island is called Flores, and they're called Homo florensis because Flores, yeah. In any event, the understanding was, or the scientific argument was that these guys are not a distinct species of hominids. They are basically Homo erectus that had disease that made them shorter or miniature, whatever it was. But this recent discovery of a 700,000-year-old fossil, I guess, which was also a dwarf, may actually point out that yes, these guys are their own species, a dwarf species of humans or hominids that lived 500,000 to 1 million years ago or more. So hobbits were real, man, really. The next couple of articles we have is the first one here. Scientists have actually managed to capture an image of a supermassive black hole actually swallowing massive gas clouds. Some of these gas clouds are like, hundreds of millions times more massive than the sun. So that was a particularly interesting article from the conversation.com. So the link is going to be in the show notes. Last article, this actually happened last week. Stephen Hawking has proposed a solution to a particular paradox issue with black holes. Now, the issue with black holes, and it's quite a paradoxical conundrum, is that, there's a fundamental rule of the universe or law of the universe that you cannot create or destroy information. And what information is basically everything. Everything in the universe is basically, scientists call that information. You cannot create new information. You cannot destroy information. Now, the conundrum was that, when a black hole sucks up matter, it is taking that information and it's holding it. So that information is gone from the universe. Maybe about 50 years ago now, the actual theory of Hawking's radiation, the fact that black holes evaporate, which is basically a unifier of quantum theory and Einsteinian theory, unifying general relativity and special relativity with quantum mechanics. This is his genius moment there. Black holes evaporate. They release radiation as Hawking's radiation. The conundrum here is if a black hole evaporates and is gone, all that information that it contained is gone from the universe. And that's the paradox. You cannot destroy information, but our understanding of black holes, it seems that it did. His latest, wow, that was a bit of a ramble. I had to explain quite a bit. His latest article, the latest thing he's talking about, is that it seems like, or he proposes that, black holes are actually hairy. Now, it's not like hair you have on your head or on your dog, but it is soft particles, I think they called it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Odin. I can't.
I believe so. It was something akin to the virtual particle argument, but brought back in here for black hole physics, singularity physics here in this case. I haven't fully dived into it. I didn't have enough time to, but if ever I remember something like it, what you're saying though is on the right track.
So it's actual around a black hole. They have this hair fuzziness, and this hair is actually a type of radiation. Now, as the black hole evaporates, it is sending out this Hawkins radiation, and this information that's held in the black hole is emitted as a kind of radiation signature that scientists are describing as hair. So that the signature of that information will remain in the universe even after the black hole is gone, evaporated, and whatnot. So it's a possible solution to the conundrum, to the paradox. So the information does remain, but scientists are still kind of confused about it. Scientists don't know everything about the universe, and that's what's fun about science. If you ask me, it's the actual discovery, and finding out more. There's always more to know. So I found these 3 articles very, very interesting. There's of course more scientific stuff, like the one about Mars being something about Mars and ice ages. Right now, Mars is in between ice ages. I couldn't find the article to post that, but that was interesting as well. Maybe we'll put it on next week's show. But that's it for me and Science Tech.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for everybody being out here tonight. Zeph, we appreciate your immersion, man. When you get back next week, we expect a lot from you, especially with the Rising Report. Have it ready for us. Thank you very much to the panel here. Like I said, no one person here makes the show. We all do collectively. And you, the audience, and you, the contributors out there who go into your aspects of STO and collect this information, we listen to you. We research it as well. And it's like, hey, look, you guys are coming up with something here. It's either a new discovery or very creative, or you're showing us something. So we appreciate that. We want to shine a spotlight on all of you. So if you have something here, whether it's a new video, a new event, something being creative, please bring it to us. We'll be more than happy to vet it and then give you a platform to be able to talk and speak on what it's about, or show it to us so that we can either enjoy it or participate in it or support it in some way, shape, or form. So from everybody here on the show, have a good morning. We'll see you out there.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.